Welcome to Taking Stock. We're in a pawn shop. Now, if you look at any cliched American movie about somebody goes on hard times, they go into a pawn shop, there's usually a quite revolting creature behind the counter looking to rip them off based on their jewelry, a watch, or maybe mummy's heirloom, a silver spoon, or whatever it might be. In South Africa, there are a couple of franchise operations that will lend money against goods, and one of the longest operating is Cash Converters. Rich Mukheibir is the chief executive of Cash Converters. You've been doing this in South Africa with an Australian concept for like 20 years.
Correct, Bruce, yes. Thank you for the opportunity. It's actually 25 now. I started the first store in Parow in the Western Cape in 1994. In fact, we signed our license with our Australian Masters licensors on the 1st of April 1994, 27 days before our first democratic election. So we've been at it here for 25 years in South Africa. It's at a brand that's established worldwide, 37 years, and a public listed company in Australia.
Why does that matter?
It goes to credibility in the final analysis, because what we're doing is pretty similar to what pawnbrokers, second-hand dealers in the household goods industry have been doing for literally centuries. The founder of Cash Converters International is a chap by the name of Brian Cummings, and how he describes it is taking that old business model out of the steam-driven age and putting it into the supersonic age. So what we've done is we've taken it out of the dark and the dingy and the cluttered and the sometimes unpleasant and dishonest, and mainstreamed it here, Main Road in Randburg in Johannesburg. This store, in fact, is in its 21st year. It's the first one I opened in Johannesburg, and made it mainstream and acceptable to the likes of you and myself, our significant others and our family. So it becomes an environment where we service the community, we provide people with what we refer to as access to cash, and we do it in multiple different ways.
But I mean, the model is the same. If I've got a Rolex watch and I need some cash in a hurry to pay a gambling debt or pay school fees or whatever it might be, I can come to you and say, this is a real Rolex, please give me some money.
Yes, that's exactly it. The crux of what we're trying to do is provide people, help people get on with their life. So Simon Sinek's, the management consultant's idea of his golden circles, the why we do what we do is to help people get on with their life. How we do it is we provide them with access to cash, and what we do is we buy, we sell, and we loan money. And that's the crux of the matter. So somebody would come in, and if they got a lot of stuff lying around in their garage or something like that, come and sell it to us. Neat and tidy, within sort of 10 to 15 minutes, we'd be able to purchase the product, provide the customer with that access to cash in folding money, and they'll be on their way, and we'll take the goods, clean it and fix it, hold it for the required 7-day period of time in the context of the Second-Hand Goods Act, and then on-sell it to another client.
What's the 7-day sort of cooling off period? What's that about?
So philosophically speaking, around the world, the concept behind that is once the second-hand dealer has bought the item, it gives the authorities who manage it within the territory an opportunity to check that the goods are not stolen. So that's what's called a hold period. In New Zealand, as an example, the hold period is 32 days. In Namibia, the hold period is 2 days. In South Africa, it's 7 days. So if we bought something from you today on Thursday, we would need to put it in a bonded warehouse, a storeroom in the store for a period of 7 days. Next Thursday, it would come out of that environment. We'd clean it and fix it if necessary, price it, and put it on the floor for resale.
What sort of guarantee is there that that has any sort of protection against you buying stolen goods?
So it's not just one aspect associated with it. So within the context of the Second-Hand Goods Act, we are required to take details of the people we purchased the product from. So if we brought it from Bruce, we'd need your ID, which we scan into our digital IT system. Each item that we buy from you is identified against a unique stock number, and we track that process. We also have your address and all your contact details. While we're doing that transaction, the transaction is also filmed on CCTV, which we keep for a 30-day period of time. So we go through that process with every transaction, and then when we come and on-sell it to another person, we identify to whom we on-sold it. So there's a paper trail, in fact, a computer trail all the way through the process, as to from whom we've bought the item and to whom we've sold the item.
I mean, in a country like South Africa, which has got as much crime as it has, as much violent crime as it has, where the thefts of particularly electronic goods are commonplace, and your biggest selling items in these stores are electronic goods, it's a huge responsibility.
Yes. So how we go about mitigating that effectively is to train our staff members very, very well. It starts with a philosophy that says we don't buy stolen goods, and then we go through a training process to determine how we can mitigate from getting those goods in. So as an example, you were mentioning Granny's old engagement ring, which might be a big setting in an old type of setting with a big ring. If somebody walks into our stores with an item like that that doesn't match that particular ring, so let's say a young male at the age of 22 is trying to sell something like that, we've got to start asking ourselves the question, why has he got it? Alternatively, car audio is also a high-risk item. If a car radio comes in and the back wires have been snipped off, you've got to start asking the question. The final analysis is if our buyers are uncomfortable, they'll ask for a tax invoice in the consumer's name, and if they don't get that, they won't do the transaction. If what happens is it comes through the process and after the fact we've found that it is stolen, through our IT system, and we have a centralized database of this, we will identify that individual as having sold us items that didn't belong to him and not do business with him in the future.
What is my right as a consumer, though? I come in and I buy a laptop from you, and I spend 3,000 Rand to get a great deal on a pre-loved laptop, and there I am, I'm now using it at home, and I've been using it for 3 months. Yes. And suddenly it turns out that this thing was stolen because you sold it to me, you've got my record, you've got the person who sold it to me's record, and now the person from whom it was stolen wants it back.
Yes. So what we do is repatriate it all the way back through the process, ensure that you're refunded whatever you paid us. We then clearly have a claim against the person who on-sold it to us, but the reality is we're unlikely to be able to get that claim sorted. We'll get the PC or the laptop back to the original owner. And effectively what it becomes is a self-governing process because our franchisees and our stores are franchise operated, then end up having lost the item as well as the cash.
And so that's almost a self-regulating mechanism.
That's exactly the process.
Is that the logic of it?
Yes, that's exactly it.
Does it happen often?
Very, very seldom. Less than 1%, in fact, probably less than 0.5% per annum are we found to have bought something that wasn't owned by the guy who sold it to us.
But I mean, you've got a poster up on that wall over there offering a cash reward. Your shops are vulnerable. I mean, that much is clear. But also, I mean, are some of those guys cats who've sold you stuff they shouldn't have?
No, those folk are specifically issues that we've had in the South Gauteng region with armed robberies in our stores. So we, during the course of last year, had a spate of them. There were 1 or 2 gangs in the South Gauteng region. And we were working with SAPS on that to try and identify them with our closed-circuit TV, et cetera, and reduce that issue to almost...
I mean, we see the results coming out of ShopRite and Massmart, for example, and they talk about these gangs that pull in with serious high-caliber weapons and make the lives of retailers and people who work in these stores absolute hell. I mean...
They're a real issue. And again, as I said, our business is a family-run operation. So we've got mom and pop literally behind the counter. And we've had circumstances where 15 of them would walk in with AK-47s, and it's traumatizing, significantly traumatizing.
I mean, the rules under those circumstances are don't engage.
Give them whatever they want, don't engage, let them get what they want and leave as quick as possible.
What does that do to insurance rates? I mean, in a place like South Africa, where unfortunately crime is common,
So interestingly enough, our security in South Africa is 3 times the cost of opening a cash converter as anywhere else in the world. As a consequence of that, our insurance rates have more than doubled in the last 5 years as a consequence, specifically in this area. If you look in the Cape or Messina or Durban or something like that, the rates are pretty much the same because we haven't had that problem. But it has become a significant issue.
So then, at some point, it becomes no longer worthwhile to do business. I mean, are you anywhere near that stage?
We're nowhere near that stage, and we hope we don't get there. But really, anything that's happening outside the 4 walls of our business that's adversely impacting it causes a problem. And as I say, this is a franchise operation, and the people that are running it for profit for their particular family, and effectively to build wealth within the family. And when things like this happens, it takes them back a year, possibly 2. I mean, we've had one store that's had 7 robberies in a matter of a year. And besides the traumatizing process of that, it causes significant financial loss.
Richard Mukheibir is the Chief Executive of Cash Converters. What is the most commonly sold item? What is the oddest item that has ever been presented for sale in a cash converters? More on that in a moment.